Okay, guys. So today, let's talk about opening up a small business, opening up and operating a small business. Uh, first rule, and I'm sorry I don't have a lot of graphics, and I'm going to try to do this in one take because I don't do a lot of editing. Blah 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 blah. So anyhow, it's quick and sweet. That's how I like to do things. Quick and sweet. Um, First rule of business: takes money to make money. Where are you getting your money? Do you have money? You got a rich uncle? You getting it from the bank? Banks don't give out a lot of money to broke people. I can tell you right now. Even if it's a small business loan from the government, that it all comes through the bank. And guess what? They don't give money to people who don't have collateral. What type of business are you gonna do? You know, my advice is to do something that you're interested in, that you like. If not that, then just maybe something that's very profitable. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I read a whole book one time, and the whole book was a waste of time except for one thing, and it said you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you go somewhere on vacation and you see something that's just jamming, and you're thinking, "Wow, I could do that back at my place," that's not a bad way to come up with an idea. Location, uh, you know, these days the internet's taken over. You gonna do it on the internet, or you gonna do both, or are you just gonna have a location? Um, you know, you got to figure out what's best for you. Uh, just make sure if you're doing an actual physical brick and mortar location, there's enough traffic, there's enough people around to make it work. Uh, and if you're gonna do rent, or if you're gonna do the internet, you got to figure out how much Amazon's stealing from you. And I've been told that they're taking more and more these days, making it harder and harder, putting the squeeze on everybody because Jeff Bezos doesn't have enough money. But if you're going to do that way, or if you're going to rent a place, try to figure out how much is it going to cost me every day. Like maybe Amazon, you don't have to worry about the everyday stuff because you're only getting charged for when you sell something. But if you're got a brick and mortar location, that's costing you money to have that location every day. So you got to figure out, if my rent is $1,500 a month, how much is that per day, and then go from there. I don't. What's that, like $45 a day? So you got to do at least $45 worth of business to cover the rent. And then there's going to be insurance, and there's the lights are on, and the heat's on. There's all that other stuff. Add that all shit together, and come up with how much is it basically costing you to run that business every day, and then you got to make that or better, or at least a couple days a week. The bottom goal is to put money in your pocket, not just to give money to the guy you're renting from, right? Yeah. Uh, get ready to do everything. You just get ready to do everything. So, if you don't want to work, don't do it. But I can tell you this: I started when I was 28. I haven't had a boss since I was 28, and I absolutely love owning my own business. It's fun. It's challenging. That's one of the reasons I left my other job, because it was just boring. I had no real say in what was going on. Like, it was a good job and I had fun, but just wasn't a challenge. Owning your own business is going to be a challenge, and that can be fun. Okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to just sell T-shirts? Are you going to sell food? If you're selling food, you need to go to the local health department and you need to show them what you're going to do. In my case, I'm here in New Jersey. I had to go and show them a menu and tell them what kind of stuff we're going to be selling. Blah blah blah. Just a side note here: if you're selling anything with like meat, poultry or beef or something like that, you have to take a class, safe food handling class, about how to handle the food, how to store the food, how to cook the food. The $600 class, and you got to take the class and pass a test at the end. I didn't have to do it because my business doesn't really deal with meat, so that was a bonus. But yeah, get ready for that. They hit you with, and there's going to be a health inspector fee, at least here in New Jersey. Every year I have to pay, I think it's $45 for the health inspector to come out and look around and make sure I'm doing everything properly. There's not, it's not a pigsty in there. It's somewhat neat and tidy, and you got to have all the proper sinks. You got to make sure you have soap. You just got to make sure you're you're covered. There's certain, and they tell you what you're going to have to do, so it's not a big deal. I've always passed, no problems. They're decent people on the most part. Sales tax. So almost every state collects sales tax. Here in New Jersey, when I used to have a retail store and we were selling T-shirts and hats and skateboards and that kind of stuff, T-shirts and hats were not. They don't tax clothing in New Jersey. I know in Virginia and New York they do, so you're gonna have to collect that. But here, they don't. But now the skateboards were taxed, so skateboards. If I sold, let's just say $30,000 worth of gross business that year, and you're gonna have to. Most of them are gonna be online. Here in New Jersey, it was called an ST50 form. You have to do it quarterly, every 3 months. And even if you're not selling anything that quarter, you still have, because I was a seasonal business. Even if you're not selling anything, you still have to log on and you still have to tell them you didn't sell anything and you didn't collect sales tax that month and la la la. But you get on there and it'll say, how much did you sell? Let's just say I sold $30,000 worth of stuff that month. 20,000 of it was not taxed. 10,000 of it was taxed. Here in New Jersey, the sales tax rate is 0.0625, so roughly 6%. You take that 10,000 times 0.0625 and you get $625, and you need to send the state $625 for that sales tax that you collected, and now you're sending it in. And by the way, you need to program your register to do that automatically, so it makes life a lot simpler. Okay. You need to go to the federal government. You need to get an EIN number. An EIN number is an employer identification number. It's really easy, not hard to do. I'm sure it's done online these days. I don't remember when I did mine years ago. But you need to get that number so you can file those forms. When you go to file the state sales tax, they need an EIN number, or they want one. That's if you have employees. If you don't have employees, a little different. You don't have to get an EIN number. You still have to register with the state probably, but you don't have to get an EIN number if you don't have employees. You get employees, you got to get it. Other thing about employees is you're probably going to have to get unemployment insurance, unemployment benefits insurance. Pain in the ass, another expense. Add it to the list. I know it can be kind of feels like it's overwhelming, like they're just hitting you with all this money, and how am I ever going to make any money? But it's possible. Every quarter you're going to have to do, if you have employees, every quarter you're going to have to do a Fed Form 941. It's pretty simple. It just says, okay, this is how much they made, this is how much I withheld, and now you're sending that money into the government. They want it every quarter. So instead of at the end of the year, they want it every 3 months. Employees, what I always did, I had a sheet like this, okay? And what this is it just has it broken down. So, okay, how much did they make? How many hours did they work? And then how much was their total gross? And then you take I'm sure you can get this online. Mine's just old and ragged. I've had this for 30 years. This is just a chart that says this is for the federal income tax. So they are claiming themselves, or they're not claiming themselves. They made $1,500. You come down to $1,500. You go over. They're not claiming themselves. They're paying, $200 federal tax. You can do payroll weekly, or you can do payroll bi-weekly every 2 weeks. I always did it bi-weekly because I didn't want to do this shit every week. Okay, so then you come back to this. They made $1,500. You took $200 out for the federal government. Then you go to the Social Security. You got to take that $1,500 times 0.062, and you'll get a number there. And it'll be like, $86 or something. Then you're going to come over to Medicare. Same thing. You're going to take that 1,500 times 0.0145, and you're going to plug that in there, and that's going to be, $32. And then you come out of the state tax is here in New Jersey, 0.01, so 1%. So $1,500 is going to be what, $15? And then the DI is a local tax and the UI is a local tax, and they are roughly 0.5%. And you fill all of that out, and then you say, okay, they started with $1,500 minus the Fed, minus the Social Security, minus the Medicare, minus the state, minus the local, and you come up with they get $1,300, something like that. So you give them $1,300. All that money that you did not give them, you will have to file. That's the 941. And then at the end of the year, you got to do a W-2, and that's what it is. It's all these numbers plugged in together to do the W-2. So how much they made, how much was withheld. It's a pain in the ass, but it's not undoable. Like I did an accountant for like 2, maybe 3 years, and then I finally looked at it. I'm like, I can do this stuff. It's not that hard. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but it's not that hard. And every year, come W-2 time, I would dread it and push it off, and then I would do it, and I'm like, that wasn't so bad. So that's that, guys. W-2, and then you're going to have to do state W-2s, and you're going to have to do state W-3. Really, the W-3 is just checking, this employee with this Social Security number made this much, he worked this many weeks. And it's almost like a back check on the W-2. So, federal taxes. So when you're ready to do your federal taxes at the end of the year, you want to grab one of these sheets, which is a profit loss sheet, and you're going to plug in. This is how much the business grossed. Minus the rent that we paid, minus the utilities that we used. Minus the employees, minus the insurance, all this kind of stuff. And then you finally come up with a number that says, well, this is what we actually made. And then that's what you're going to pay taxes on, what you actually profit. And notice it says profit loss. So there is a loss on there as well. So in the early days, if you're not making any money, you can tell them, I didn't make any money. I lost money this year. They're not taxing you on losses, and it takes money, it takes time. So yeah, most businesses aren't going to hit home runs, but some of them can. In a later video, I think we'll get into more like what type of business and some winning strategies that I've learned over the years. So like I said, this is just a brief overview. If we need to go into something, or if I get enough feedback on this and people say, hey, let's do that profit loss in depth, or let's do that payroll sheet in depth, no problem, we can do that. So good luck, man. You know what? Like I said, when I was 28, I quit a really good job, went and started my own business. Yes, the first few years were rough. I didn't make any money my first year. I think I broke even, which I looked at as a win. I broke even. I'm like, okay, I'm learning. Next year I'll do a little better, and I did. Next year I made a little bit. And year 3 into year 4 and 5, I was off to the races, and life was good. So, and if you're so inclined, it's really not. It's fun to be your own boss. It really is. It's challenging. Sometimes it can seem like it's you against the world, but other times when you're doing well, you're just so happy. That's the other downside, is when you're not doing well, it can kind of piss you off. But anyhow, good luck. I hope this helped. And like I said, if we need to get into something more in depth, we will. Thanks, guys. See you now.